What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk about the Nuggets. We're going to talk about Michael Porter Jr. We're going to talk about Campazzo. We're going to briefly mention other players, but let's be real. That's who we want to hear about. That's who we're interested in. That's who I'm interested in. Let's get to it. Bah!
Jamal Murray expressing himself. My goodness. Way down top. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a monster jam by DeAndre Jordan.
All right, so as expected, the story of the season will be MPJ's integration into the Nuggets system. All right, so MPJ is a results-oriented type of player. Okay, he plays off script with beautiful chaos. If it goes in, doesn't matter. If it was a bad shot, still went in. Count the bucket. That's how he sort of looks at the game right now, and that's because he's an insanely talented guy, right? He's able to make off-balance contested shots. He has a knack for knowing where to get rebounds. He's really good at putting the ball back up after getting offensive rebounds. And he's got some glimpses of some elite defense. He's incredibly athletic. He's fast. He's 6'10", and he's had some really good shot blocks so far this year. And so, but at the same time, he also makes a ton of really low-level mistakes. He's going for steals when they're just not there. He's just doing a lot of things that a lot of inexperienced players do. Trying to do too much on some ends of the floor, not rotating. Just the little things, just knowing the right place to be at the right time. But he basically needs to learn how to when to hit the gas and when to hit the brakes, and it'll be the difference between the Nuggets winning the finals over the next few years or just being a competitive funding team to watch with a chunky Serbian passer and mini Kobe Bryant. So speaking of chunky Serbian passers, the Nuggets have someone on the team who can teach Porter to do just that. Everyone knows at this point the Nuggets offense revolves around Jokic, who's process oriented, right? Instead of just playing with beautiful chaos, he knows exactly the right play to do, and most of the time he executes on that play. So I actually noticed during one of the timeouts against the Kings this past game that one of the assistant coaches, Wes Unseld, who actually was a Finals MVP back in 1980 or 78, he got down on one knee, was explaining something to Jokic and Porter, who were at that point in the game pretty much single-handedly keeping the team in it and keeping them competitive. And as Wes is talking to them, I'm looking at Jokic, and Jokic is looking him in the eye, nodding, trying to understand what he's saying, and Porter's sipping his water, looking off in the distance. Not I don't want to say he wasn't listening, but he's definitely not as focused as he could be, which is ironic because he's the one who needs that coaching probably more than Jokic, right? Jokic probably already knows exactly what the coach is saying. So, that's a little bit frustrating to see, but I think it sums up, both of their play styles, like I said, right? Porter's relying on that talent, and I don't think he quite has the respect for, the smaller things in the game yet, which I think he will need to learn to do if he wants to be the best player on the floor instead of just the most talented player on the floor. So last game, Porter had 30 points on 12 for 18 shooting and had 10 rebounds in that game. But we also saw him make some really bad errors in that game. He ended with a -9 in the plus-minus box, which is basically the best way to tell how well a player played overall on both ends of the floor, I would argue. At least as far as stats. I mean, it's definitely not the whole story, but you get the point. He had a really good shooting, 10 rebounds. You would expect that to be a high plus-minus, so he must have made some really bad errors, which he did to have that low of a plus-minus. But, I think that coaching example where he's not paying full attention, it sums up MPJ's game right now. He's at his best when he's playing without structure, but in the NBA, you need to have that structure or you're going to lose. It's just simple as that. So you can improvise from time to time, but the majority of possessions, you need all five guys to be clicking and on the same page. And we've seen Porter, do this from time to time because he has a great feel for the game in general. He looks like he's born to play the game. I think Malone said that in the bubble last year. I guess it was this year, Jesus. But there's so many possessions where he's doing his own thing, and it hurts the team more than it helps him even if he's making shots. So, Murray's a great example of a super talented player on the Nuggets who's actually been able to to learn and follow a proven method that works for the team, right? He's worked with Jokic so much on their pick and roll that it's unstoppable when they're both clicking most of the time, especially after the mid third quarter and most of the fourth. I want to talk about Jamal and his procrastinating tendencies in length in another video, but I'll say quickly that he got called out in the second or third game by the broadcaster for looking like he didn't even realize the season had started, which I completely agree with. But anyway, back to MPJ. So Porter has statistically been the second best player for the Nuggets so far this season. But those statistics, they don't always include all the horrendous mistakes he's had, which is to be expected, honestly. Again, he's a rookie, but we have to remember he's only played a handful of games in college, very little limited minutes, even last year in the bubble. So I think Porter, I think he needs to humble himself a little bit and realize that he may be the most talented player on the floor, but he won't be the best player until he learns how to operate on both ends of the floor with efficiency and consistency. It's going to be tough in the short term, but he has Malone, who's harnessed the sporadicness of talented players' strengths before, like Jamal Murray. He has Jokic on the floor with him, who knows the game as well as any coach. And he has Murray on the team with him, who he can relate to and talk to about how to control his chaotic talent effectively. So Monte Morris, fresh off of signing a new 3-year contract with the team, put up a career-high 24 points against the Kings to go with 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. He's looked great over the beginning of the season, even before that last game. He's actually the third most productive player after Porter through the first 4 games in terms of offense. But he's one of the reasons that we haven't seen much of Campazzo, who has only seen about 7 minutes per game so far. But he did get 13 minutes last game since Jamal was out with an elbow injury, and him and Monte got a little bit more run. So Campazzo has had some growing pains the first few weeks, but he's starting to adjust to the speed of the league. Everybody's bigger and faster, especially, that showed in the first 3 games. He looked a little outmatched physically. And he's been asked to guard guys like De'Aaron Fox, who's definitely the fastest player he's ever had to defend. And he got blown by once early in the game. But then later in the game, Campazzo gave De'Aaron a deeper cushion, kind of like a cornerback in football does to a faster receiver. And that helped him stay in front of the play, and he ended up making De'Aaron Fox go to the line instead of getting an easy 2 points. So you could see in that very game, game 4, what I'm talking about, he actively made an improvement on defense and was able to improve his quality. So love seeing that. And being outmatched physically has been the story of this guy's whole career. So in my opinion, this is just the same-ish, different day. And he looks to make fewer mistakes every game from here on out, I'm expecting. I think this is, the physical aspect of the NBA is just another challenge that he's overcome, just like everything else he has. So his shot also hasn't been falling, but I think he'll improve on that. And a lot of the hardcore fans who watch Campazzo more than I do, they say that he makes big shots when his team needs him to. So looking forward to that. And most importantly, Campazzo has provided some much-needed experience for that second unit. He's been a huge mental boost for the team. I see clips of him in the tunnel doing a handshake with Zeke Naje, doing a little bit of piano activity, making fun of Zeke because he's an excellent piano player. But on top of that, his communications on both sides of the floor has been awesome to watch. He's calling out switches really well. He's calling out screens, and that's something that the Nuggets really need, and we don't see enough of. So despite the lack of size and speed that I talked about, he's been able to cause a lot of problems for the other team with his active hands and persistence on defense. So love to see what he's doing there. He's had some excellent passes as expected. He's done well to keep the ball moving and press quickly on the counterattacks. One of my favorite plays that the Nuggets have had this year was when he takes the ball off of a broken play and whips it forward for an easy bucket in the corner. I think Barton was the guy who was able to get that. But ultimately, with Jamal and Monte ahead of him on the depth chart, and both of them, being younger than him and extremely talented themselves, it's going to be hard for him to carve out a significant role with the Nuggets this season without an injury, I'm expecting. But if he's given the chance, I think he's going to be able to lead a really fun and effective offensive unit. So on to some of the other guys on the squad. PJ Dozier's looked really good in 20 minutes a game. I would like somebody to tell me if he's left-handed or not, because watching the highlights of most of these games, he's having insane reverse layups with his left hand that a right-hander shouldn't be making. Millsap's been playing well, knocking down shots. Looks like he's 28 years old. Barton scored a lot for the second unit. He has played pretty well, but I would like to see him play off the ball a little bit more. Sometimes he gets lost when he dribbles too much. I think he's best utilized moving around in the corners, making shots, breaking the defense down that way. And Jokic is doing Jokic things. Averaged a triple-double through the first 3 games, had 42 assists through those first 3 games, which blew out the previous record of the water for a center up until that point. I think it was 24. So, I could talk for hours about Jokic, but I'll save that for another video. And Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray has had a slow start. He started balling out in Game 3, but then he had a nasty collision in that Houston game, and he ultimately missed the 4th game against the Kings with an elbow contusion. But he practiced this past Thursday, the last day of the year, December 31st, and he's expected to play on New Year's Day against the Suns. And on top of that, JaMychal Green is also expected to make his debut for the Nuggets. And I got to say, that will be a welcome sight for the team's second unit defense. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Appreciate you sticking in with me through the video. Can't wait to see how the Nuggets put it together this season. It's gonna be fun to watch them try to fit all these new pieces into the puzzle and make things work. But again, super young team. The future's bright. For this season and beyond. And I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. And don't forget, or please forget to dislike and unsubscribe. Thanks a lot.